Hello everyone, welcome to another exciting edition of Geeks Not Nerds, the podcast. I'm Captain Logan.
And I'm Vince.
And I'm Lucas.
Lucas, thanks for being with us.
Hi.
Lucas has forgotten that he's actually not on camera. We shot some videos earlier, and he just looked at the microphone and hoped you'd notice. But alas, it didn't work out so well. So anyway, Lucas is a really good friend of Vince's, and he's a stand-up comic, and he's a huge, giant, mega fan of the Muppets.
Correct. That's right.
Cool, I got it right. Awesome. Anyway, so
Not the Muppets.
Yes, not the Muppets.
The Muppets.
No one's a fan
They
of
are,
the Muppets.
yeah, they are a Reno act, and they're a really poor version of the Muppets. But anyway.
So today we're going to be talking about the Muppets, specifically the new film, which Vince and I didn't get a chance to review right when it came out. So we're going to talk about it now, and we might also, if we have time, just kind of talk about the Muppets a little bit in general, is kind of what I'm thinking. So let's go ahead and just jump right into it. I saw the film right when it came out. Actually, I think I saw it opening weekend, so I'm a little bit rusty. You guys are going to have to remind me of some things a little bit.
Sure.
I didn't get a chance to go back and watch it again like I was hoping to. But what I remember the most about it is that it was awesome!
It really was. I went to the midnight premiere at the AMC Theater, and I actually didn't think there would be a crowd. Matter of fact, when we got there...
Was there?
There was a huge crowd.
Oh,
we were
cool.
actually one of the last
Really?
people who actually were able to get a ticket.
I think it performed better than they thought than even they thought it would.
Well, and you know... I will say this: a lot of people have their opinions about Disney owning certain franchises. Disney did an amazing job of promoting this.
What allowed them to advertise the way they needed to?
Yes, absolutely. Well, like I went to the movie again, and so much fun. I mean, you talk about this is when this is the stuff. This is all made up of the stuff that got me into this when I was a kid. So when you see the character of Walter singing the Muppet Show for the first time. That's me, and that is every Muppet fan that's ever been out there, because there's just this wholesome, hey, let's put on a show. We're a family. We may be crazy, but we all work really well together. It's an amazing camaraderie of complete weirdos, and I really appreciate that.
You hit, I think, the smartest move they made at the very beginning, which was we're not just going to make a movie trying to bring the Muppets back into the limelight again, but we're going to make a movie about the Muppet Show,
Yes.
which is what the other films were missing. A lot of the time. My wife actually enjoyed this film even quite a bit better than the original Muppet movie because it was about the Muppet Show.
Yes.
She, when we finished, Sarah was like, wow. I mean, there was like a whole half an hour toward the end of that film where you feel like you're just watching the Muppet Show.
Absolutely.
And so I mean, it's fantastic. And not only are they doing the Muppet Show, but they're writing it like it was.
Bingo. Well, and that was the great thing about the whole idea of this came from Jason Segel, who all of us Muppet fans owe this guy a steak dinner. Let me tell you, because he's done him
That's
and
a
Nick
lot
Stoller.
of steak dinners.
That's a lot of steak dinners.
You're going to be eating for a month of Sundays.
Now, hopefully, he's not vegetarian.
Well, I mean, he basically was asked by Disney which franchise would you like to be a part of. He goes, I would like to do some with the Muppets. So he started going around to like Jimmy Fallon and other people saying, hey, I'm going to do a Muppet movie. But he would tell Jimmy Fallon backstage, it's not official. I'm just saying this so Disney will give me the green light.
That's so cool.
It's really weird. I've never heard of anyone doing that, but they gave him the green light. 2 years later, here we are. And Jason Segel was a huge fan. For those of you who have seen Sarah Marshall, remember the big puppet act at the end of the show that he did. And he's always loved the Muppets. As a matter of fact, I remember Jason Segel saying in several interviews, Kermit the Frog is like the Tom Hanks for younger kids. He's a really good host. He can sing, he can dance, he can make you laugh, and he just always seems to be a good leader, when everybody else is around him.
The only difference between him and Tom Hanks is that I'd say that Kermit the Frog has been in more good movies than Tom Hanks has.
Well, that he's made out of felt and green.
Yes.
Wait, Hanks isn't made out of felt. I don't believe this.
And in fact, Kermit the Frog has also been on more game shows than Tom Hanks.
That's very true. That's very true. But you also mentioned how they did the Muppet Show in the third act of the movie, which back then, during seasons 2 through 5, were written by head writer Jerry Jewell, who is a fantastic writer, and I think Jason Segel and Nick Stoller did a great job of kind of bringing back what made it work.
Yeah.
And, I mean, they had a barbershop quartet of Nirvana, Smells Like Teen Spirit.
So cool. And that's just the kind of stuff they did back then.
Absolutely.
But and the only modernization they did was they remembered that there was some culture after 1980.
Yes.
I mean, that's it.
Well, I mean, they did CeeLo Green's Forget You and with the chickens called Cluck You.
Yeah.
Which, it was okay. This is only my opinion. It was okay, but I think it would have been a much cooler song had they done Forget You with the Electric Mayhem.
Yeah.
Electric
More
Mayhem.
fun.
It would, yeah, exactly.
I felt like Electric Mayhem was sorely missing through a lot of it, and I think part of that was because of voices. Because it seemed to me like there were, and I could be wrong about this with them, but I felt like, and this was a catch-22. It's good and it's bad. The good news was they didn't give too much screen time to the characters that they just didn't have great voices for, that didn't sound like they used to. They gave Ralph very little to say because they don't have a voice for Ralph anymore. He doesn't sound right. He just doesn't quite sound right. And so, unfortunately, he doesn't really get a song, but if he got a song, we wouldn't like it because it wouldn't sound right.
Well, and he was in the Smell Like Teen Spirit number with Baker, Link Hotthrob, and Sam the Eagle.
Yeah, but there were enough other voices there that he didn't stand out.
Yeah.
If he had been singing anything by himself, we would have all noticed. He doesn't sound right.
Well, and I'll tell you this, all of them, except for the guy who plays Gonzo, which surprisingly there wasn't a whole lot of Gonzo in this. All the other characters were replaced by new characters. There's
You mean new actors?
New Muppeteers. David Rudman is now doing characters like Scooter, Janice from the Electric Mayhem, and he's doing a couple others. Let's see, Matt Vogel, who's actually a native of Kansas City, he's doing a lot of the Jerry Nelson characters, and Jerry Nelson does Floyd Pepper from the band, Lou Zealand, the boomerang fish guy, Robin the Frog, who is Kermit's nephew. He also does Sweetums,
I was
the big
kind of
monster.
okay with Robin not being anywhere.
Well, it was, that's the thing. I'm such a huge Muppet fanatic. I want to see a moment with everybody. I want to see a Link moment. I want to see a Behemoth moment. Behemoth is the big orange monster. He was prepping Jack Black right before the show started.
But the experience I had was that I saw more than I thought I would.
Yes, everybody thought that too. And they focused because they had a little scene with Pepe there, but it was only like a quick 2-minute scene because they wanted to bring back the 70s and 80s Muppets.
Yeah,
and Rolf and Scooter and the Electric Man, they wanted to make sure they got a moment.
Yeah, that's a good point. So there were even some Muppets that were created a lot later that we saw like really brief. I think Rizzo was there for like 5 seconds.
Oh yeah. He didn't even have.
I think he was there.
Sang. Yeah, he sang, but he never had like a line.
And I mean, they were making a huge deal out of Rizzo in the '90s. Like he was the new big giant Muppet.
Wow.
And he wasn't awful. I mean, I liked him in Treasure Island a little bit, but it was kind of nice to not see what you and I grew up with as the new big important Muppets. You know what I mean? Not being important anymore. It was kind of nice.
Well, and see, you kind of touched on something after the passing of Jim Henson. Characters like Gonzo and Rizzo just kind of rose up to the front. Because Kermit. My opinion is any Muppet movie should be starring Kermit and Piggy. That's just, say what you will about Piggy. Fozzie, of course, too. And then Gonzo, But I don't agree with the whole fact of Rizzo and Gonzo being the main characters, which they were in the last 3 films. Muppet.
I don't like Gonzo having to have a sidekick. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
And it worked for the time that it took place. I don't know. This is kind of a hard.
He doesn't have the mileage that Kermit and Piggy people kind of thing. Although again, I don't love Piggy, but I get it.
Well, and there's something to be said about the original performers. I really love and respect the people who have come up and replaced these people really well.
Oh yeah, but Kermit sounded a lot better than he has in a while.
He sounds really great right now.
Because we had, and I don't know if it's like. Because I just haven't kept up. I don't know if it's the same person or if he just got better. But like whoever was voicing Kermit in the early 2000s didn't sound right at all. Well,
after Jim Henson had passed, the torch had been passed off to Steve Whitmire, who actually does Rizzo.
Oh, okay.
And he, like anything, it's pretty big flippers to fill.
Yeah.
So it took him a while. But you're right. I thought Steve.
I think that was a bit of a flippant statement, but yeah.
Right. But I really think he did Thank you, Vince.
Oh, Vince, what are you doing? We should let Vince talk a little
Yes,
bit.
go
I think
ahead,
Vince has said 3 words since we started.
I said 3 of them.
Okay.
I counted. I think there was exactly 3.
You can jump in at any point.
You know, that's the thing is that the Muppets for me wasn't necessarily something huge for me when I was a kid. I mean, I enjoyed it. It never occurred to me that the Muppets were something that was wholly separate from animation or something to that effect. It was the Muppets was just another like puppeteering was another form of entertainment that it never occurred to me that it was strange or that it even left. I just assumed it was still here and that I just wasn't watching it. But apparently it's been gone and it's coming back in a slightly big way. I mean, I suppose I'll chime in on the whole Kermit Piggy thing. I do think there's some mileage there. Even in this movie, even though I liked what they did with it, I didn't necessarily feel that Piggy was something that was breaking new ground. I mean, I just get tired of her. And Kermit, actually, I think this movie, while it does have a big plot line involving Kermit and Piggy, the big plot line was Walter, and I didn't mind that the Piggy plot line was there because I had Walter and Jason Segel, whatever his character's name was.
Gary.
Yeah. Walter and Gary's plot lines to latch on to. I cared more about them than I did about the Muppets. It was just a Muppet movie, if that makes any sense.
It's cool when you can pull off something like this after a whole lot of years of us going, oh man, what happened to the Muppets? It's even cooler when you take as big of a risk as they did and it work. Yeah. And I'm talking about Walter. There's a character I didn't expect to care about or to like, or I mean like you're taking a big risk to invent a Muppet, and then to even broach the whole, oh, he's brothers with a human thing, and then it worked. Well, it totally worked, because they drew attention to it, but then they didn't explain how it works or anything like that. And they even have a song about Am I a Man or a Muppet, and they still don't explain what the difference is. It's fantastic.
And you know what's great about that is that they took that straight. This is what Jason Segel had in mind when he did this. He goes, I want to do a movie that not only combines the Muppet Show, but the first 3 Muppet movies. Now, in The Great Muppet Caper, which is the second film they did, Kermit and Fozzie are twin brothers. As a matter of fact, you see for a split second...
Oh, yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah, and you see for a split second a bear who is green with a collar like Kermit's.
Yeah.
And it's their boss talking about their dad, their boss is about to fire him. He's like, the only 2 reasons I hired you 2 jerks is because your old man was a friend of mine. And you see a picture of this Fozzie/Kermit. And you're Fozzie goes, Dad spoke well of you too, or something like that.
They probably did just for a throwaway gag where it wasn't even...
Well, that's where he got the idea, like he wanted that whole... How the heck does this even work? And I appreciate, like you said, they handled it really well.
I want to say that the making Walter, while a risk, yes, wasn't necessarily the biggest risk, because what this is, I mean, of course, it would be a risk to make any movie where the person doesn't necessarily care about the main character when you're walking in.
Or where it's somebody they made up and we've never heard of them before, and we didn't go to see that to see that character.
Yeah,
well, Walter was essentially the godchild. Walter is essentially made up from Jason Segel. Like, he wanted that character to basically be himself, because Jason Segel is a huge Muppet fan, like on my level, essentially. And they wanted to create Disney. He talked to Disney. They wanted to create a character that can essentially be Jason Segel's vessel into how much he loves the Muppets and how much he really wants to see him back in the spotlight.
Well, and it's a gap bridger for people who don't know what the Muppets is, but still going to see this movie. And it's sad. I had a difficult time in my brain even imagining that there are people who didn't know what the Muppets were watching this movie, but of course they have to exist, and I'm like, I have a hard time getting my mind around that, you know what I mean? But I mean, like, and forgive me, our younger viewers, but I have a tough time when somebody tells me they were born in like 1996, you know what I mean? I'm like, how did you I just can't even get my mind around it.
People born in the 90s, they're buying cigarettes now.
I heard
as it turns out.
Can you believe that? Yeah. Here's I swear to you, the day before the movie came out, I saw an article where, and I don't know if it was Jason Segel or Nick Stoller, it was an audio podcast, and one of the people who was in charge of the film said, people who are 26 and younger don't really know who the Muppets are. And I was just lucky enough, I was 26 at the time, I just turned 27, that they cut right off, like, basically when I was born. And, like, you know, after that, you know, that's when people like Dave Goelz and Steve Whitmire brought Gonzo and Rizzo up front.
See, I have a tough time buying that, though, because, I mean, like, I can't think of anybody I grew up with who didn't know who the Muppets were. I mean, there were